Now, fuck that shit. I was watching this video earlier today. I think this video right here kind of explains a lot of shit that I've been saying lately. And also Ice too. Where the fuck Ice at? I'm surprised Ice ain't up here. Where the fuck Ice at, man? I know it's like fucking 5 o'clock where he's at, man. But goddamn it, where the hell is he at? But I think this video right here explains a lot of shit about why games be looking the way they be looking. Because I swear to God, I be sitting back telling myself, how the fuck we in the year 2025, right? Technology is at a significant level, way more than what the fuck we had in 2005, 2010, hell, even 2015. Technology is better. We got computers that my PC alone, if I was to have this PC back in 2005, it would run the whole United States. Just this one PC alone. That's how much power this motherfucker got, right? In today's technology. But yeah, why the fuck do video games look worse in today's world than what they did in previous world? I didn't finish watching this video. I watched like the first 2 minutes of it because I had to take a shit. And sometimes I got to concentrate when I take a shit. You know how that be sometimes, you know. That motherfucker shit. But yeah, though, I wanted to check this motherfucker out, though.
Why do software developers and hardware companies spoil us with new revolutionary technologies every year, while the technical state of video games not only doesn't improve, but sometimes even deteriorates? Why do games that are more than 10 years old often look much better than modern projects packed with the latest technologies? And why is it that the more graphics degrade, the more powerful a computer is needed? First of all, let me say that technology is very important. Technology matters. Technology is always good. Objectively speaking, without it, you would not use top-end equipment, play your favorite games, watch this video, or any other. Even ray tracing, which often gets its fair share of criticism, is a genuinely cool feature. So if technology is great, what's the real problem here? From here on, it's all about the real shit.
I call laziness. That's what I'm assuming that was going to be. Is laziness. They found the way that they can make games at a cheaper price and still charge you premium money for it. Versus back in the day, you had to make a good game because it was great competition. But everybody's following this same. Could I be noticing that shit? Have you ever noticed, like, Call of Duty, for example? Let's talk about Call of Duty, right, for example. Look at BO6. Hell, look at Modern Warfare 3. Still in Call of Duty, especially in Warzone, there's no level of destruction in the environment. Like, have you ever noticed that? Like this is one of the biggest arcade shoot 'em up shit exploding everywhere. You'll think that they will add a explosive environment to add to the surreal, you know, John Wick 5 type of episode that they trying to play out on the TV screen. But still to this day, you had games back in the day that had destructive environments and all this old shit. They don't even got that shit these days. I tell people all the time, I can give 2 fucks about a pretty ass looking game. I don't care about that shit. I care about the inside. What the interior looks like. Cause all that pretty shit don't mean nothing. I done seen a lot of pretty ass games that played like shit. And I done seen a lot of subpar games that look subpar, but they play incredible.
Here's the truth. Advanced graphical tech doesn't guarantee a game will look good. The beauty of visually stunning games isn't just down to programmers. For something like Far Cry 5 to look photorealistic, the credit primarily goes to the 2D and 3D artists, modelers, and designers. Only after that do the—
Wait a minute, that's Far Cry 5? I never played Far Cry 5. I played Far Cry 6. So this is a game that came out earlier than Far Cry 6. God damn, that shit look way better than what Far Cry 6 looked like. Holy shit.
Programmers come into play, writing shaders and making everything run. And here's the kicker. Far Cry 5 isn't a technological marvel. High-res textures, long draw distances, global illumination, and bump mapping aren't revolutionary. Developers have been using all this tech for years now, but Far Cry 5 doesn't have advanced hair rendering and physics like in Tomb Raider or The Witcher 3. No real-time reflections, no nanite, the stuff devs have been flexing with lately, and not even ray tracing.
Jimmy the Powder!
Far Cry 5 feels like a technically outdated game. But then how
What
is
the
it
word
that
is,
Far
my
Cry
boy?
5,
How you
for
rockin',
all its
Slime?
technical backwardness, is a very good game not only visually, but also in terms of resource requirements? Why do modern games run worse, and if they look better, they are only slightly better? In the old days, we always felt a significant jump in
Tomb Raider.
graphics when a new generation of consoles came out, which was obvious and massive. And now, when we have these dozens of teraflops on consoles and powerful RTX graphic cards for thousands of dollars, we play games that are not much different in graphics than Project
I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I was hyping. Y'all seen me play this game, right? This Star Wars Outlaw. Y'all know I'm a big Star Wars fan. I was hyped for this game. Visually and just gameplay wise, this game was bad. For them to charge a premium price, and I bought the Ubisoft subscription shit where you pay like $15 a month for it, because I didn't feel like spending $120 on one fucking video game. You're fucking sucking dick. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hate to be so French with it, but you're sucking dick. I'm not paying $120 for no fucking single player video game. What the fuck is wrong with you? I'll pay $17 and cancel my subscription. But anyway, when I was playing this game, man, I quickly realized like the game visually is not nothing groundbreaking. I didn't see shit look way better than that. So okay, I can subpar with the graphics. What about the gameplay? The shit was tedious, bro. It was repetitive. It was like the same shit over and over and over again. Like nothing wild about it. And I quickly like stopped playing it. And for me to be a big Star Wars fan, you know, you will think that just like with a racing game, I may not like the game. I may say that it sucks, but with me being such a big fan with it, I'll put up with it. I'm a big Star Wars fan. The game can somewhat suck. The game can somewhat look ugly, but I was somewhat put up with it. Bro, I played this game for 2 weeks, man. I gave up on it. I'm like, man, I'm done with this shit. I'm rocking good, man. I've been Pizza and Red Bull, and I'm ready to bust some ass on iRacing. Pizza and Red Bull, you be careful with that. That sounds like a dangerous combination.
that were released 7 or even 8 years ago. And sometimes, these powerful devices for thousands of dollars do not even allow us to play at a stable 60 frames per second. But what exactly prevents technology and powerful hardware from giving us truly breakthrough graphics and good optimization? It's all about coherent and uniform design.
Coherent.
What the fuck is that?
And uniform
That's
design.
a good question. In fact, graphics in a game can be called coherent and uniform when all or most of the graphic elements are designed at the same level. When you look at the picture as a whole, the eye does not cling to anything. And the interesting thing is that a coherent and uniform graphic can be primitive and non-technological. Moreover, integrity and uniformity apply not only to graphics and not only to games. Let me give you some interesting examples. Let's take fine arts. It's clear that there are different types of drawing, and there are many different genres and artistic styles.
What
For
the
example,
fuck?
there's a painting by Emmanuel Lutz, Washington Crossing the Delaware. And this is Marilyn Diptych by Andy Warhol. Since these are different areas of fine art, it is very stupid to compare them with each other. However, we can say for sure that individually, they are complete and uniform paintings in their own style that attract attention, give aesthetic pleasure, and, most importantly, are pleasant to look at in their own way. After all, nothing is out of the general style. Now, imagine a situation where a
Hey, yo,
picture
that
of George
pig is better than me.
Washington
What
is
the
a Star
fuck?
Wars aerial battle, people are holding a McDonald's flag, the water is acid pink, and the meme's Mike Wazowski is standing on the left. Yes, it looks fucking awesome. But still, it doesn't look like a monolithic and coherent work. And not only because Wazowski and Star Wars starships have nothing to do with it, but because the drawing style of the individual elements is different and jarring. After all, a pile of elements with different drawing styles does not help normal perception. Another good example is movies. It's no secret that special effects can either create a wow effect or completely kill the magic of a movie. The first Terminator is a great example. The problem with the movie was the low budget, and Cameron and the team had to do some tricks to shoot the special effects scenes. That's why the T-800 looks so unnatural in some scenes. However, there were several such scenes throughout the movie. Therefore, knowing what tricks the crew went to because of the low budget, all this can be forgiven. And it works the same way in video games. Here are two rather unexpected examples, namely GTA San Andreas and Minecraft. It's clear that Minecraft was not so much backward in terms of graphics for its time. The game was generally perceived as a graphic gag because at first glance it looked like something from the last century. Although it was released in the same year as Battlefield 3, Batman Arkham City, and Crysis 2, which were breakthroughs in terms of graphics. In 2011, Minecraft was very backward in terms of graphics and was only on par with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. However, unlike many games, Minecraft is a great example of a coherent and uniform design. Everything ingenuous is simple. No budget for fancy graphics? Let's make it primitive in everything. The result was an amazing cubic world in which all textures were pixelated, and geometry and animations were primitive. But this primitivism extends to everything you see in front of your eyes. You can feel differently about Minecraft, but in terms of graphical integrity and uniformity, it's a brilliant project. It's a pity that many players have not appreciated this genius.
Hey, I was gonna say, I was watching a video a couple days ago of somebody test stressing a 4090 and a 5090 on Minecraft, like with ray tracing and all those settings turned on. Hey, you can make Minecraft. It's crazy. You can actually make Minecraft look incredible. It's gonna run like shit, but you can make it look incredible with ray shading and all that old shit. That shit was wild. I was like, what the fuck? That ain't never Minecraft looking like that.
And are adding mods with retracing and various texture packs. But shaders that make the water transparent and are very realistic won't make the land and sand on the coast look as realistic. So graphical mods are a surefire way to spoil your perception of graphics in Minecraft. The situation with GTA San Andreas is much the same. The game was released in the legendary year of 2004, and given the graphics revolutionary games that were burning up video cards at the time, San Andreas looked like a little brother with a developmental delay. But no matter how disgusting the graphics were in GTA San Andreas, they were disgusting in everything. It is for this reason that this game did not cause visual discomfort at the time, and for some people even now. You could hardly see a cutscene where a detailed CJ is holding an object worse in detail than himself. Poorly detailed characters with crooked animations walked through a soapbox with low detailed furniture and held something that somehow resembled certain objects. And that's why the remastered Grand Theft Auto, the definitive edition, looks so fucking bad. The developers of this shit, who are not actually connected with Rockstar Games,
You know, that's crazy now as I think about it. Because when they remastered San Andreas, it ran like shit, and nobody, from what I can hear, actually liked the game. I never heard nobody say anything positive about this. They rather play the original one. There are mods with Minecraft that looks and sounds completely real. It's crazy. I could believe it. I could believe it. These motherfuckers, man, they smart.
Games obviously forgot about the same integrity and uniformity. And for some reason, they decided to improve not all textures, but only a part of them. And instead of improving the detail of everything, they focused on the lighting and puddles on the asphalt. Imagine what tasty screenshots they could make to advertise this remaster. As a result, we have this shameful crap. An uneven plasticine mess with gorgeous headlight shadows and disgusting models. So now we know that graphics technology alone is not enough to make a game's graphics good. But when all aspects are worked out at the same level, even if this level is not very high, you can achieve a good result even without technology. And when art designers, programmers, and engineers start working together, working hard on every graphic component and skillfully using
Message.
Hey, we're trying to learn about the reason why video games are the way that we are. Stop trying to throw your propaganda bullshit into the video. You thought I wasn't going to catch that. I'm very curious and I'm very observant. Why? What does this have to do with anything? I can get the guy in the back of this photo is doing because he's painting something, so that has something to do with this. But what the fuck does two white males, two middle-aged white men, sitting on a goddamn sofa on a computer, smiling, holding each other, both ain't got no goddamn socks on. What does this got to do with anything? This ain't got shit to do with nothing. You fucking liberal. I'm just playing.
That's tough.
and engineers start working together, working hard on every graphic component and skillfully using the coolest technologies, we get incredible graphic breakthroughs, which unfortunately are very, very few. However, Back in the days when some of you were still in your dad's balls, almost all games looked great. When developers were driven by a desire to create something good and authentic, where everything fit together perfectly. Perhaps that's why the first Call of Duty, Quake, Hitman, and many great old games have remained in our memory as having incredibly good visuals, although in fact, nowadays their graphics look very backward, somewhere around the same level as modern games from Ubisoft. But the real graphical peak happened in 2004. It was then that 3 games were released that completely changed the way gamers thought about graphics in games. Doom 3, Far Cry, and of course,
Crysis.
Half-Life 2. All these games
Half-Life?
were technological and breakthrough projects of their time. Lighting, models, physics, geometry.
You know what's crazy? I never played Far Cry. I mean, not Far Cry, Half-Life. I never played that. I had the opportunity to get it and all that old stuff, but I never played that game. I think one day in my life, before I leave this motherfucker, I gotta play that. I never played that game. I remember when it came out. I just never played it. Far Cry, the first time I played Far Cry was Far Cry 3. That was the first one I played. I played Far Cry 3 and I played Far Cry 6. Doom, I played the original Doom back in the day. All these other Doom remakes, hell no, I'm cool on that shit. I'm cool on. That shit reminds me of Gears of War, man. I don't got time for all that bullshit. That shit don't excite me.
Texturing. 2004 was indeed a revolutionary year for the gaming industry. There's just one small nuance. It was the year that marked the beginning of developers' wrong priorities in making graphics in games. And the reason for this is the first Far Cry. Despite all the gorgeous open spaces, beautiful shaders, and good physics, Far Cry was not coherent and uniform. Here and there were undetailed textures, and the character models were pretty bad. But the problem was that at that time, most players evaluated the graphics not in the game itself, but by the beautiful screenshots on the back of the disc box. It was then that the developers realized that what matters to the average player is not the uniform elaboration of graphic elements, but rather certain aspects that are simply well seasoned with color correction and bright design. And here we go straight to 2007 and 8. It was at this time that the most breakthrough and voracious game projects were released
Metal Gear Solid 4.
the consoles and computers of the time. It was the second graphical peak in the history of video games when Crysis and GTA 4 were released. The first Crysis is still a joke about beautiful technological graphics.
I remember back in the day, what people used to do for you to know if you had a good PC back in those times, the benchmarks was if you can play Crysis or not. That's how you knew if you had a good PC or not back in the day. If you can run Crysis at a high graphic level or whatever. That's what they did back in the day. And Grand Theft Auto 4 visually was terrible. Because they tried to go for like a photorealistic some type of book. That shit was... Grand Theft Auto 4 is probably one of the worst Grand Theft Auto games they ever made. And I ain't think that any Grand Theft Auto game size Vice City will take its spot. But Grand Theft Auto 4 came about, and I'm like, yeah, this is worse than Vice City. I cannot stand Grand Theft Auto Vice City. That game is so trash to me. I will never play that. I will play 3. I will play San Andreas. I will never play Vice City. That's why I'm not the biggest fan when it comes to GT6, because they're going back to fucking Miami, and it just reminds me of Vice City. Vice City was dumb. It was stupid. It's just nothing about that game that I enjoy. I just didn't enjoy that shit. Like, they were trying to go down this whole, Miami 1970s, 1980s, fucking Tony Montana type shit. That shit was boring as hell.
That few people can afford. Crytek crammed a shitload of different technologies into their game. And even though the game had some graphical flaws, the result is still a project that looks very decent even 17 years later. Crysis is a great example of how technology is good, but you also need to be able to work with it competently. Even though the system requirements were way too high for the time, Crysis blew minds with its graphics and worked fine.
What was the system requirements?
Even though the system...
I don't know what none of this shit is. 2.8 gigahertz or faster. Oh, that's minimal. 1 gig of memory. Graphic at 256. Bro, look where we came from to what we're at right now. An Intel Core 2 Duo. Now we got 24. Now we got 16 cores. Back then we had 2. Memory only 2. Now we're at 32 and 46 and 128. And NVIDIA GeForce 8800. I don't even know what the fuck that is.
System requirements were way too high for the time. Crysis blew minds with its graphics and worked fine. Rockstar with its GTA 4 screwed up a bit. And how painful it is to admit this, given that the fourth installment is perhaps the best part of the series in many ways. At the time of its release, GTA 4 had gorgeous lighting and shadows, and the world was filled with objects that were pleasing to the eye. However, the textures and character models turned out to be one of the game's two major problems. And
Bro, no, I don't. This man is drunk. Nothing about Grand Theft Auto 4 is exciting. Nothing about that game. You know how I knew Grand Theft Auto 4 was bad? This is exactly the time that I knew Grand Theft Auto 4 was bad and I wasn't going to enjoy it. We went from San Andreas, where you was able to jump into water and swim, to Grand Theft Auto 4. If you jumping back into the water again, now you die. Yeah, I'm not playing this shit. This shit is terrible.
And the other problem was, of course, the lousy optimization, which some people still can't get over. GTA 4 is a good example, where the developers implemented half of the technologies well, but just gave up on the other half, and it turned out to be a shitty situation. And then, everything continued to get worse in the gaming industry. From about 2009 to 2013, in the last years of the Xbox 360 and PS3 lifecycle, games were released that were not significantly better in terms of comprehensive improvements of graphical parameters, but almost every game paid most attention to shaders, all kinds of colorful and grainy filters,
Yeah, Grand
and
Theft
other
Auto 4
cheap
was terrible.
picture
It was
decorations.
terrible.
And the developers can be understood because the console market brings in more money, which means that the graphics need to be adjusted to console standards. Besides, as I said before, most gamers
What is going on? I thought we were watching a video about video games. There's kids watching this video. Why is this being shown right here? What the fuck is going on here?
don't give a shit about coherence and uniformity, because it's much easier to attract attention with beautiful screenshots and rendered cinematic trailers. There were some stagnation, and this stagnation was also accompanied by an increase in system requirements, and then really powerful computers began to appear that could run Battlefield 3 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. And I'm already prepared for a lot of dislikes and hate in the comments, but I'll still say that Modern Warfare 3 was much more beautiful than the third Battlefield. For all its hardware and technological demands, Battlefield 3 was never graphically coherent and uniform. For good textures and lighting, the developers had to pay with reduced detail of locations, which was very striking. And of course, Battlefield was much more demanding than Call of Duty. But Modern Warfare 3 may not have been as cool as its competitor in terms of new technologies, but the developers did everything right. They left the development of graphic elements at an average level, but in everything else. The result was a nice looking game with
I used to say that for the longest, and now I don't preach that no more. I used to always say that Grand Theft Auto visually is beautiful, like it's photorealistic. Now, since and y'all gotta realize I'm not a big graphic person, so I really don't be paying attention. I'm just going off of like face value. I say since Vanguard, the graphics of Call of Duty has been going downhill since Vanguard. Like Modern Warfare 2 it looked good. It looked good for what it was. Modern Warfare 3 looked like shit. BO6 looks like shit. Like that, the game that we're on right now looks like shit. Graphically, BO6 looks like shit. That's why I scratch my head so much. Like, how does a game like BO6 looks like shit, and it's not nowhere to the level of a Modern Warfare 2019 or a Cold War, hell, even a Vanguard, but yet is more demanding on my PC versus those games are? When those games came out 5 and 6 years ago, but yet those games I can easily get 200, 300, 400 frames, no problem. But this game BO6 don't look like shit, but my PC struggles to get 200 frames. Like, what's going on? This unoptimized ass bullshit.
adequate requirements that didn't hurt the players' eyes. And now let's talk about the good stuff. And this good, oddly enough, is related to the previous generation of consoles. I really believe that the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 were the times when perhaps the most beautiful games were released. And in confirmation of my words, we can see how many remasters were still being made of games from the last generation, especially without changing anything. And why? If a conventional Uncharted 4 released 8 years ago or Witcher 3 released 9 years ago look on par with modern games, and sometimes even better. It was in the period from 2004.
And that's another thing I don't like about today's world in gaming. All this remaster shit, bro, that shit is not cool for me. That's not fun. I don't see how people can get like excited for a remaster. What? I want a new game. I don't want a remaster. I'm cool with that remaster shit, man. If I want to play that game again, I'll just go back and play that game again. I don't need we got enhanced graphics on Dead or Alive, or we got enhanced graphics on Resident Evil. Bro, I don't give two fucks about no goddamn Resident Evil. A remastered game that came out 20 years ago. Fuck that game.
2014 to 2016 that a lot of really beautiful and moderately even projects were released. Perhaps due to the new generation of consoles, developers were able to untie their hands and try to do their best. But in 2018 and 2019, something changed. It's a crossroads in the game industry in terms of graphics. I both love and hate this period for a simple reason. It was during these years that we got the technology of ray tracing in games and some really cool projects in terms of graphics. However, the rest of the games not only remained at the same level, but also began to degrade in terms of graphics. It was the beginning of the end. Yes, we got RDR2, God of War, and Death Stranding, which stood out graphically from other projects. They were beautiful and revolutionary, and interestingly, these games were originally console exclusives. Although, it is traditionally believed that consoles are the main problem in the development of graphic technologies in the gaming industry. This is far from the case. The main problem of graphics degradation is... Yes, as paradoxical as it may sound, the most powerful platform on which we can play with the new best graphics is the very problem that has caused games to stop developing technologically. And before PC gamers turn this video off, and they never know that I think PC gamers are lovely and nice people, I'll try to get my point across. Game developers, especially large studios that can churn out the same projects every year, actively and closely cooperate with video card manufacturers. And it is logical to assume that the creators of most popular franchises, which always sell well, see no reason to make graphics better, but they need to sell new powerful hardware. That's why it turns out that now the graphics are usually improved where it's not particularly noticeable. For example,
I could have sworn I just said this in one of my videos a couple days ago, where I said that the reason why BO6 and Call of Duty runs like shit, they be doing this shit on purpose just to make us go out and have to buy a 5090 graphics card and all this old shit, when damn well you're not gonna sit here and tell me a fucking game like BO6, where there's no destructive environment, nothing visually and pleasing about this game, can barely pull 200 frames with my 4090 and my motherfucking Ryzen 5950 X3D chipset. You're not going to tell me that I can barely pull 200 frames. Well, Flame Guy, you're streaming also. It doesn't matter if I'm streaming also. You're not going to sit here and tell me this PC right here is struggling to get 200 frames with the motherfucking hardware that I got in there. I said this shit in a video a couple days ago when I was playing Call of Duty. These motherfuckers be working entwined with each other to force you to go out and buy the latest and greatest NVIDIA card or the latest and greatest Intel chipset or Ryzen chipset. They be doing this shit on purpose. Because I can't believe this shit. How a game like Modern Warfare 3 from last year was easily pulling 250 frames. It was pulling so many frames on my PC that I capped it off. But now, 9 months later, a game that was so-called in development for 4 years, 9 months later, this game struggles to get 190 frames. Get the fuck out of here. Man, they be doing that shit on purpose, cuz, for real. They be doing that shit on purpose. They want you to go out here and spend thousands of dollars on new hardware every year so you can run this shit at a decent amount of frame rate. They want you to do that shit. Because they know easily these games, man, that we got, these games can easily be optimized perfectly where these games can easily pull on subpar hardware, easily pull 300 frames. But you mean to tell me my 4090 is struggling to get 200 frames with BO6? The fuck out of here. My GPU is waiting to fail on me. It's crazy that it only started happening when warranty period ends. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Like, people got to realize, and I noticed this in the car industry a long time ago. You got to realize something, right? You know why your daddy and your granddaddy still got that Ford F-150 that came out in the 80s in the backyard? You know why he still got that? Because back then they made vehicles to last. Vehicles today, they're not made to last. Why? Because if somebody had a vehicle that nothing broke on it in 5 or 10 years and it ran flawlessly, that means that they're not going to have a customer until another 5 or 10 years. Versus making a vehicle that, yeah, it runs and does all this, but it's made out of cheap parts like plastic. Like, I got a BMW, right? When have you ever heard having plastic components have anything to do with the cooling system of the engine? Why is there plastic parts involved with the cooling system? Like, that sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. Plastic parts around boiling antifreeze. Do you know what happens to plastic when it gets to a certain temperature? So why does it has anything to do with the cooling system? I realized that when it came to vehicles a long time ago. They make vehicles nowadays that last only a couple years, and after about 3 to 4 years, shit start breaking. You start having electrical problems, transmission problems, cooling problems, HVAC, all this shit, little shit here and there. Little tedious shit here and there, to the point that they want the average consumer to be like, well, this is broken. I got to fix this. I got to fix that. I might as well just go and get a new vehicle. Exactly. That's what they want you to do. You might as well get a new vehicle. Same thing with iPhones a couple years ago. You remember when iPhones was they was putting out updates on the phones and shit. If you had the new phones, it'll run perfectly. But if you had the older phones, a generation or two removed, the phone would start slowing down the performance. If the battery was degrading, it will start shutting off randomly. It'll start doing all this dumb shit to force you to finally sit there and be like, I might as well upgrade and get a new phone. Exactly. That's what we want you to do. Go out there and get a new phone. We want you to spend money on us every single year and not have a phone where we can easily make it run and work perfectly and you can use it for 5 to 10 years. We can easily do that. We have the technology to have that type of reliability. But why would we do that when we can make you a customer every single year? Same thing with cars. Why would we design a car that can run and last easily with no issues for 5 to 10 years when we can make you a customer every year or every 2 years? It's the same thing with gaming. Why would we make a game that you might want to sit there and play for the next 5 to 10 years when we can just do this and do that and make you go on to the next game because this game has so many issues or this had that and whatever the case may be? They doing the same thing. It's boy, man, the world that we live in. And y'all be sitting here thinking that these motherfuckers got y'all best interest. It goes from the lowest to the highest, man. No, nobody got your best interest, man. At the end of the day, you, me, everybody. At the end of the day, we're just a goddamn dollar sign to them. We ain't no human beings. We're just a dollar sign to them. And they want us to spend as much money as possible. I'm starting to believe, honestly, even when it comes to these GPUs. You know how a new game comes out and they'll have game-ready drivers and all that old shit? I'm starting to believe that if you don't got a 5090, because since we're on the 5090 now, if you don't got a 5090 and you download those game-ready drivers for BO6, let's just say that, BO6, the game-ready driver is going to work perfectly for the 5090 because that's a new graphics card. It's going to make the game run smooth, flawlessly, all that shit. But any hardware from previous generations, it's going to slow it down. You're going to have hiccups. You're going to have stutters. Your frame's going to be jumping all around and shit like that. I'm really starting to believe that shit. with these game ready drivers, if you download these game ready drivers for older hardware, it's going to do more harm to your system than what it's going to do positive. That's fucked up right there. God damn.
Message.
They add extra polygons, and now your 4060 video card is a piece of crap that can't even give you 60 FPS in new games. So of course you need a new RTX 5090 for $2,000. That's why right now we see such a big jump in system requirements, even though graphics are not progressing much. Just 10 years ago, 1 GB of video memory was enough to play really beautiful games. Now, you need at least 6 GB to play the lame Star Wars Outlaws. Are you fucking kidding me? And strangely enough, consoles are not to blame for the degradation of graphics. We have plenty of examples of games on consoles.
Yeah, you can't blame consoles because you got to realize a console, until they started doing this dumb shit with these pro versions, you got to think about it. A console is developed and designed in 3 or 4 years. So a lot of hardware that's in that console when it get released, let's take PlayStation 5 for example, right? It got released in 2020. Don't think that that hardware that's inside of that PlayStation 5 is from 2020 because you got to design around it. So that hardware is probably from 2018, 2019 type hardware inside of it, and then it got released in 2020. But a console has to last a whole generation, and usually a generation is anything from 5 to 7 years. Versus a PC where I can just, it's plug and play. I could take out my old graphic card and put in a new one. I could take out my old CPU and put in a new one. You know what I'm saying? So it's interchangeable. Unlike a console is not interchangeable. That's what it's going to be.
That may not have been technologically revolutionary, but they were uniformly worked out at an average or even high level and did not cut the eye. But in any case, maybe over time, developers will finally realize that with all the resources they have, they can create a really beautiful game.
I don't want a beautiful game. I just want a game that fucking works. That's all I want. I don't care about that beautiful ass shit. That bright lights don't excite me. I just want something that works. That's it. That's all. Why game optimization degrades? Who's to blame? Lord have mercy. My high school education boy would be showing. Let me see what this is real quick.
If you don't live in a cave, you've noticed how badly optimized modern games are. Every year, the power of graphics card and their prices increase.
This is my problem right here, right? This right here, I think, will give us a clear depiction of this is my issue right here, right? Take Red Dead Redemption 2, right? Prime example. The game came out in 2018. Look what the system requirement was for that game back then in the hardware that it was being ran on, a PlayStation 4. And look how beautiful and marvelous it looked. And then look at today's hardware, where we're far advanced from what we had in 2018. And this game still struggles to get over 200 frames. Like by now with the hardware that we got, this game should be easily at 4K, everything all the way to the max settings, 200 frames easily, 250 easily. This game is still getting like 80 frames, 90 frames. Look, y'all think I'm lying, bro. Check this out. Remember, this game came out on fucking PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4. What is it? RDR2 PS4. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. PlayStation 4. Here you go, right here. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. Oh, Stan, yo! Look at this shit. This is PlayStation 4 right here. This is PlayStation 4. A console, PlayStation 4, this game came out in 2018, so this came out towards the end of the PlayStation 4 cycle. PlayStation 4 came out in 2013. The hardware inside of a PlayStation 4 was probably developed in 2011. So really, technically, it's 2011 hardware inside of the PlayStation 4. And this is what they was able to do with this game right here on the PlayStation 4. Look at that. On a PlayStation 4. Versus today, let's just do this real quick. PlayStation 4 RTX 5090.
Disagree.
I want to see the frames. What frames is it getting? I want to see the frames that it's getting. They don't got no video where they show the little frames in the corner. I'm trying to find one of those videos. Blessings, awesome. What the word is, gang? What the word is, my boy? All right, we can do this.
Hello guys, Crispy here. Welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing a GeForce RTX 5090. Mention in the full review because I completely forgot is this card.
So look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This right here is a 5090. Max settings at 4K. It's just getting 120 frames. And let's see if somewhere in the video he goes somewhere where it's like crowded. Oh yeah, this is when he goes into town. Let's see how much it drops.
Faster and hear him sing. It's that time of the video. Sing, Bob.
110, 108, 105, 103, 101, 100.
It's beautiful, isn't it, my friends? He has such an angelical voice. Also, 96% GPU utilization.
108, 105, 103,
it's because
101. Now this is when he goes into town, so this is more intensive.
Utilization in Red Dead Redemption 2. It's been happening.
99, 98, 97.
All of the NVIDIA GPUs that I've tried
Hey,
so
bro.
far here in this.
You want me to spend $2,000 on a graphics card to run a game that came out 25, 24, 23, 21, 22. Wait. My bad. But remember, high school education, man. I mean, public education. 25, 24, 23, 22, 20, 21, 20, 19, 18. 8 years ago. You want me to spend $2,000 on a graphics card? And we're just talking about the graphics card. We're not even talking about the CPU. You want me to spend $2,000 on a graphics card to play a video game that came out 8 years ago on the PlayStation 4, a superior, way superior hardware than what the fuck a 5090 is, and the only thing that I'm getting is 100 and some frames? Come on, bro. That's tough! That's all I'm getting? When this shit was able to run on this potato-ass hardware of the PlayStation 4? Well, Flanga, you got to realize something, man. The game wasn't, bro. I'm not trying to hear all that bullshit. You trying to defend these people, bro. I'm not trying to hear all that. Ooh, well, you know, when you run it, the ray tracing and the RTX, bro. I'm not trying to hear all that shit, bro. You're not gonna sit here and make me believe that a fucking graphics card that costs $2,000, I could buy fucking 4 PlayStation 5s with the amount of money of this fucking graphics card, and all I'm getting is 105 frames. Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you smoking? Get the fuck out of here. This game didn't come out 2 months ago. This game came out 8 years ago. And I'm only getting 105 frames? Y'all ass off the fence for real. That shit is wild to me. That's all I'm getting? This game, with the hardware that we have now, this game should easily be pulling 200 plus. 250, 300, no problem, no sweat. But all we're getting is 105 on a $2,000 piece of hardware? And let's go to the previous generation, the 4090. What was the 4090 doing? 4090. 4090 at 4K.
Hello, guys. Chris.
4K.
It's
87 frames? That's it? That's tough! On something that cost $1,600 back in 2022? With inflation, it probably costs $1,800 in today's money? That's it? 87?
it's insane, this game. And
He's not even in a heavy populated area where it's demanding. He's just out in the open. So I can just imagine if he goes into town, how much more it will suck up. Let's see it right here when they in town.
max settings get around like 50 to 60 frames per second on average. So this is insane gains right here, my friends. Holy crap. All right, let's call Roach. Can't wait to see that boy. I feel like he's just ignoring us, my friend. Oh, let's start counting our FPS as well. Also, in the full review of this card, I was seeing a few stuttering issues here in Red Dead 2. What are you doing, buddy? Come on, get over here, please. Thank you. And those issues seem to have been fixed because the frame time...
Look at this, dropping down in the 80s and shit. This is a 4090. Bro, I'm telling you, man, this is the generation that we live in, man, where they're doing trickery. See, everything is doing trickery shit now. The games are doing trickery shit. The hardware providers of these graphic cards and these CPUs, they're doing trickery shit. The government is doing trickery shit. The car manufacturers is doing trickery shit. Hell, your goddamn wife doing trickery shit. That's tough! Man, don't believe shit that you see out here. All this shit motherfucking propaganda. Look at this shit. A game that came out in 2018 that was running on a PlayStation 4 is struggling to get 100 frames stable on a 4090 that came out in 2022. Where some people will sit there and argue the 4090 price per dollar is way better than what the 5090 is. Come on, man. Come on, man. We got to open our motherfucking eyes around this bitch.
Message.
This shit ain't right. I don't know about y'all. I don't be, pocket watching and shit like that. If anybody want to donate some gifted subs, hey, go ahead. It's right there. But anywho, I don't be pocket watching nothing like that. But I'm not the type of person that wants to go out every goddamn 6 months to a year and got to change shit on my motherfucking PC and shit. I want to buy my shit for my PC and tell myself mentally that, okay, I shouldn't have to touch nothing for at least 3 years. At least. And with me having that philosophy, me not having to touch nothing for at least 3 years, that's why I went out and got the PC that I got 2 years ago. Well, about to be 2 years ago. 4090. Ryzen I keep on saying 5900. 7900 X3D. The best of the best that you could buy, 2 years ago. And I'm only getting 170 frames in Call of Duty. That's tough. But when Modern Warfare 3 was out, when Modern Warfare 3 came out, and the new chipsets hasn't came out yet, I was able to get 200, 300 frames, no problem on that game. But this game, it struggles to get 200 frames. Shit's wild, cuz. Shit's wild. And then they're going down this road of not putting horsepower and not putting hardware gains into the chipsets. Now they're doing this whole, software bullshit. It's just going to add even more bullshit to these games now. Because now everything's going to be software based. Your hardware ain't going to mean shit no more because everything's going to be software based. For you to get these amount of frames and this and that, it's going to be all software based. Nothing to do with your hardware no more. So now they even able to cut more corners and save more money. What you think is more expensive or more cheaper to make? Make something that's a physical form, a physical chipset with big ass heat sinks and all this old shit to get this type of power, or just put out a software update? What you think is cheaper? To actually make the card and make it do that hardware wise, or just put out a software update? What you think is cheaper? That's why they're going down the route that they're going now with all this DLS, frame generation and all that. That's all software based. All that shit is software. That has nothing to do with the hardware. Like for real, a 4090 has more horsepower than what a 5090 does. But with the software and shit that the 5090 has on paper, it's better than what the 4090 is. But that's all software. The 5090 is all software formed. The 4090 will still outperform it in certain cases just off of pure horsepower. Bro, this is crazy, the world that we live in.
Budgets of games and the time to create them are also growing. The only thing that doesn't grow is FPS. It is falling. In recent years, we've seen a bunch of failed releases where poor optimization destroyed potentially good projects. It has become the norm not to play a new game as soon as it is released, but to wait months and sometimes years until developers can optimize it properly. Although new games look amazing, game studios forget about a very important element of a good gaming experience. The problem with poor optimization is that developers are actually alienating almost 90% of their player base. According to a January 2025 Steam survey, only about 10% of Steam users have hardware that can run these games on the recommended settings. The logical answer is to just buy a new PC. But it's not that simple. New graphics card from Nvidia costs thousands of dollars, although there is no significant increase in power over the previous generation. The most expensive GPUs don't even break the 60 frames per second mark, without DLSS, which still works like crap. Although, we used to have enough 2 GB of video memory to play really awesome games in terms of graphics. But what killed the optimization?
That's a good question, homie.
Why don't developers care about making their games run well and look good at the same time?
That's a good question.
Is it all about a secret conspiracy with Nvidia and AMD to simply increase sales of their hardware? Well, it's not really that simple. As with many other issues, it's not so black and white, and there are many reasons for the low optimization in most recent releases. The first of them is the upscaling technology. Over the past few years, artificial intelligence has been developing at an alarming rate. A couple of years ago, we were shocked that ChatGPT wrote us a poem, and now it creates entire codes and replaces most programmers. AI is used everywhere. We have videos, pictures, songs, and of course, graphics created by AI. The scaling technology in video games works like this. The game is launched at a low resolution, for example 1080p, and then AI, such as DLSS or FSR, scales it to a higher resolution, for example 4K. Theoretically, this will allow your game to look like it would in a normal resolution. But this is not quite true. Even at high resolutions, some problems become quite obvious. In Microsoft Flight Simulator, you can see flickering. You can also see it in Cyberpunk. Also, artifacts are especially visible in fast-paced scenes. The AI has to guess how the game will look like in a higher resolution. And as a result, with upscaling enabled, the game will never look the way developers intended. For me personally, it's quite important that the game has the right artistic direction, and I can't help but feel that DLSS and FSR are quick and easy solutions to increase the frame rate that simply distort the original concept. You might be saying right now I can play GTA 6 on my shitty RTX 3060, and my answer to that is, short-term solutions cause long-term problems. Sure, upscaling technology allows gamers to avoid wasting their parents' savings on a new GPU, but this technology also encourages developers not to optimize their games, because they think, hey, these cocksuckers are going to turn on DLSS anyway, so the game will run well. But the problem with this tech...
And that's another crazy thing too as well, right? Like, it's sad that the industry standard for most games on a PC is 1440. Like, you hear always all this talk about 4K this, 4K that, but the majority of people runs everything at 1440. Even me, I run everything at 1440. And even at 1440 should be struggling. What happened to 4K? We should be knocking on the door of everything running at 8K by now. I've been hearing talk about 4K since 2013. That was fucking 12 years ago. We should be knocking on the door of 8K and 16K or 12K. But we're struggling still to natively run 4K at a high ass frame rate. What the fuck? We're struggling to run that shit at a high ass frame rate. So everybody just settles for 1440p. Halfway. Lord have mercy.
Technology are not only on PCs. The PlayStation 5 Pro, which is now the most powerful console on the market and costs over $1,000, also has its own AI upscaling known as PSSR, or PlayStation Super Resolution. I remember back in 2020 when the PlayStation 5 was introduced, they were preaching that it was a huge step for gaming because developers no longer had so many graphical limitations on how they wanted their games to look. However, it soon became clear that the current generation of consoles could not run games in 4K and at least 60 FPS. After 4 years, the PS5 Pro came to the rescue, where
Right, facts. Why are we selling for less? Facts. You know how many times I see people playing, you know, like take like a FPS shooter, for example, right? You know, in an FPS shooter, everything is fast paced, so you want everything to be fluent, fast, high frame rates, all that, right? Everybody's playing all these games, Call of Duty, CS:GO, Apex, you know, all these esport title FPS, you know, shooters and all. They're all playing them at, you know, 1440p, everything low settings, or 1080p. Like 1080p, bro. 1080p was PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 era. Why is we dropping down to 1080p to play a game in 2025? What the fuck? 1080p? Like, get the fuck out of here. Everything, the 4K should be the minimum now. Like I said, I've been hearing about 4K since the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 had it on the box, 4K. Everything should be at 4K max settings, no problem. This is easy. We've been dealing with this type of technology for 12 years now. We're about to we're on to 8K now. But these games struggle to run 4K natively without doing any type of artificial enhancements, turning on DLS and all that bullshit on. Just try to run it natively. 4K natively. Your hardware can't do it. Right. It's not native. They have to use upscaling for it. Right. Exactly. Can't none of these games run properly natively. 4K native should be the norm now. That should be the standard. That should be the bare minimum. 4K native. And then if you want some more pop and glamour and some more lollipop on it, then you could turn shit up even higher. But 4K should just be the bare minimum. Have you ever put anything on 4K and just have it on low settings? And let's see how many frames you get on that game. 4K native, everything on low settings. Let's see how many frames you get. And your hardware is going to struggle to try to push that motherfucker out. That shit is wild to me in 2025. That shit is wild. Fucking wild. Especially when these games graphically, like I said, and like these videos, these games don't look no better than what the fuck we had, you know, almost 10 years ago when it comes to graphics. These games don't look no better. They pretty much look the same. They pretty much look the same. How the fuck 5 extra little pixels on my screen of something exploding is going to drop my frame 60? Like, that's crazy to me. These games are made like shit. But it goes back to what I've been saying, though. They're made like shit because at the end of the day, why would they make something and use so much money and spend so much money on it when they don't know how much of a return they're going to get back from the game? It's smart business plan. Why make a budget? Like, let's just take Call of Duty, for example. Why make a budget of $100 million to make the next Call of Duty game when we don't even know we're going to get $100 million back? So let's make a $10 million budget, hurry up and get our money back, and now we can pocket everything else. That's what they're doing. And it's across the board. Gaming, cars, movies, everything. Shorten the cost, widen the margin for profit. It's across the board.
Sony swore that finally, gamers would not have to choose between performance and quality, but they failed. Again. Now, console game developers are forced to adapt new releases to new compromise solutions like PSSR, a technology that only masks hardware limitations, not solves them. In fact, PSSR is a license for developers to be lazy. Why spend time fine-tuning performance if you can just throw the game on the market, add scaling, and claim it's optimization? In reality, what we have is a new console that they sell for twice as much as the regular version, but it can't run new games in 4K and 60 FPS. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is an incredibly good game, by the way, also works in the upscale thanks to PSSR, just like any other console. Only the Xbox Series S doesn't fuck with us and runs in native resolution. We're witnessing the console market degrading. We have moved from real technical breakthroughs to marketing promises that only mask real problems. But upscaling technology, which spoils the picture and allows developers to do nothing and rest more, is not the only thing that has killed optimization. Ray tracing. These two words have become mandatory in every presentation of new gaming technologies since 2018. And although marketers try to convince us that it is almost the holy grail of gaming, the reality is a bit different. Let's take a look at what it is. Ray tracing is a method of light processing that tries to mimic its behavior in the real world. In fact, this is something that Pixar has been using in animated films since 1999. But now that this technology has burst into games, the main question arises. Is it really needed, or is it just a marketing illusion? Here is an example. Cyberpunk 2077.
I'm sorry. When it comes to Cyberpunk, I'm sorry. Maybe it's the neon lights. Cyberpunk is the only game that when I play that game, I make sure I run that at 4K, everything max. Yes, I got to turn all that bullshit on, that DLS and all that bullshit on, but I turn everything on. When it comes to Cyberpunk, I got to run that game, everything max the fuck out. Cyberpunk is just so beautiful, man. It's incredible how that game looks, but it runs like shit. It runs like shit. Soon as I boot that game up, my PC sounds like a motherfucking, you know what I'm saying, a fucking fighter jet or something, man. That shit runs like shit.
If you turn on ray tracing to the maximum, yes, the lighting looks fantastic, but it will cost you such frame drops that you will have the impression that you are watching a video that was shot in 1878, or like you're playing on a Nintendo Switch. What do we get in return? Puddles with better reflections? Okay, but will the average player notice? Most likely not. Unless you point it out to them. Look, the glare is now displayed differently here. And now you have 15 FPS so you can see it in more detail, loser. And the worst part is that some games don't allow you to turn off ray tracing at all. Star Wars Outlaws, for example, only offers a choice between minimum and maximum ray tracing. Why can't I just turn it off? Why am I forced to use DLSS or FSR upscaling just to compensate for the fact that the developers failed to properly optimize the game? But the main problem isn't even that ray tracing eats up performance, but it has become an excuse for lazy developers. Once upon a time, they created their own unique lighting methods and adjusted reflections manually. Half-Life 2, for example, had great plane reflexes that looked quite impressive in 2004. And now? We just turn on ray tracing and forget about it. Another example is Alan Wake 2, one of the most beautiful games of recent years, which makes extensive use of ray tracing. It looks amazing if you have top-of-the-line hardware. But even with the RTX 4090, it can produce a miserable 30 to 40 frames per second in 4K if you turn off DLSS. And if you have a mid-range card, don't even dream of smooth gameplay without upscaling. But when we talk about the laziness of modern video game developers, of course, we have to mention the damn Unreal Engine 5.
Oh, Lord, I already know he's about to go with that shit. It's crazy how they throw out there Unreal Engine, you know, all this shit. But when you really think about it, bro, I feel like that fucking engine, man, be destroying these fucking games, bro. Because everybody wants to run on it and stuff like that. But goddamn, everything that runs on it runs like shit. Like, another prime example. Look at Marvel Rivals. That game runs on Unreal Engine 5. It's a fucking cartoon game. Nothing graphically beautiful about that game. And at 1440p, me running everything natively, I just barely get 200 frames. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Get the fuck out of here.
The engine that promised to change the gaming industry. When Epic Games first demonstrated it in 2020, everyone was excited. Dynamic lighting, billions of polygons, the revolutionary
Oh Lord, don't get me
nanite
started on
geometry
Unreal
system,
Engine.
realistic lumen lighting, everything looked like a real leap into the future. We were promised that games would look better than ever, and it would be easier for developers to create detailed worlds. But here's the reality in 2025. Most games running on Unreal Engine 5 are terrible. We have unstable FPS, graphical glitches, blurring, artifacts, and simply unoptimized performance. So what went wrong? Imagine being given the perfect 3D printer that can print anything you want, with no limits. But then you find out that it's powered by a nuclear reactor that consumes more energy than an entire city. But still less than a new RTX 5090. Unreal Engine really allows you to create incredible detail. Its nanite system allows game worlds to contain tens of billions of polygons, and Lumen automatically provides photorealistic lighting. This is all great if you're making a CGI movie, but when it comes to video games, it creates serious performance issues. Previously, developers were forced to optimize their games, manually adjusting the geometry of models, coming up with interesting lighting methods, optimizing shadows and effects. It took a lot of time, but it allowed games to run stably. Now studios simply rely on Nanite and Lumen to automatically generate ultra-detailed graphics. But the truth is that even the most powerful graphics cards can barely cope with this automatic detail. The remake of Silent Hill 2, Stalker 2, Remnant 2, and a bunch of other projects from recent years, all these games are made on UE5 and suffer from the same problem: poor performance and strange artifacts. To hide all these shortcomings, the developers brazenly force you to play with TAA, temporal anti-aliasing enabled, which turns a clear picture into a soapbox. Why optimize if you can just throw in ray tracing and say,
Well, yes, you need an RTX 4090 for good graphics, and if you don't have one, that's your problem.
however,
Bro, I ain't got nothing else to say.
most gamers don't want to sell their left leg to buy a new RTX 50 for a few $1,000s. We are poor people after all, and I want all the new releases to run smoothly on my GTX 650. But what do I get in return? Unoptimized crap where 30 FPS is still good, and when you
You know what? I gotta say it because it's gonna irritate me if I don't say it. What the fuck is up with these game developers now? All of a sudden screaming, "Oh, the minimum prices of video games is gonna go up to $80 and $90." I'm not finna spend $80 and $90 on no fucking video game where I barely getting fucking 60 frames on $5,000 worth of hardware. I'm not spending that money. Fuck that. I'm not doing that shit. I'm not doing it. Y'all can do it. I'm not doing that shit. I'm not finna spend the industry norm that's about to happen, $90 on a fucking game just to barely get 60 frames. Yeah, fuck that. Fuck that.
try to raise the frame rate, the game starts to look like any AAA game on Nintendo Switch. Video game development used to be an art of optimization. The game had to run smoothly, stable, and quickly, regardless of whether it was running on a powerful PC, a weak laptop, or consoles. Every byte of memory was worth its weight in gold. Every polygon and every texture was carefully balanced between quality and performance. Take Dark Souls, for example. The game ran on From Software's proprietary engine and, despite all its shortcomings, had stable performance even on weak hardware. The Last of Us is a technical masterpiece for its time. Naughty Dog squeezed the most out of the PlayStation 3, creating a game that looked better than most PC projects. Another optimization genius is Hideo Kojima, who showed a perfect example of a smart approach to performance in Metal Gear Solid 5. Fox Engine, which could produce incredible detail, but at the same time works smoothly on all devices, including the PS3. What's more, the adaptive display technology adjusted the graphics in real time so that the game always ran smoothly. But it's a new world, and in the new world, doing stuff well doesn't pay money. Making stuff fast, selling it fast, and making the next stuff is what pays money. Nowadays, games are released before they are properly debugged. And now add to that the rising prices of hardware, scalpers, and the general greed of corporations that want to sell more and more. PC gaming has long ceased to be affordable. Now it is simply a luxury. First and foremost, developers should think about a wide audience of gamers, not about what interested gaming journalists who can run the game on maximum settings will say about it.
The world that we live in. The world that we live in. you will think that, man, we'll be somewhere totally different. Man, this shit is all bullshit. All this shit. Is Nvidia destroying game optimization to sell you new GPUs? I'll be checking this dude out sometimes.
By this point, I'm starting to think that game devs are in agreement with GPU manufacturers, probably putting some invisible bloat in their games just to tank frame rates and sell newer GPU. Otherwise, I can't explain everything. Graphics in games reached its peak in about 2015 to 2016. I can't imagine a game more complex than Cyberpunk 2077 to run, yet somehow every next new released game, regardless of developer genre series, raises the bar for requirement hardware. Someone should investigate this family-friendly show. So anyway, this is a comment on one of my videos, and I've selected it because I could have chose 100, 1,000 other comments I've seen that encapsulate the same feeling. They have making basically the same statement, but I felt that this one comment, first of all, is recent. This happened, I think, about a week ago on my channel, and also it's, I think, really engineering help and support in exchange for, bundled deals and whatnot. And anyway, so I don't know all the details behind it, but I don't think there's any secret that there are agreements between game developers and GPU manufacturers. And it's not just NVIDIA. I mean, you see games that are like, AMD sponsored. There was a big thing a while back about AMD sponsored games don't seem to have the latest DLSS or DLSS frame generation in them. They just have FSR. That was a whole giant debacle that AMD never really quite denied, although then AMD's sponsored games after the backlash did.
Yeah, prime example is Starfield. Starfield was a game that was sponsored by AMD. So pretty much if you had a 4090 NVIDIA graphics card, Starfield ran like shit. But if you had an NVIDIA, this way Braid did AMD graphics card, the game ran perfectly fine.
Did start to seem to get updated with DLSS. Anyway, so the point is,
I don't want to watch this shit no more, because this shit's going to piss me the fuck off. God damn, that shit going to piss me the fuck off. Because that shit is stupid. All this shit is fucking stupid. Don't make no goddamn sense. All these games running like shit. That shit is crazy. Anywho, that shit is fucking wild.